welcome into Fresh Takes with Russo and Felice. I am Russo. Across from me now, as always, Nick Felice, Nate Sharma behind the scenes. Happy. And this is your favorite time of year, to be completely honest, Nick.
Yeah.
You love March Madness.
I do. I actually wrote a story today in the Finger Lakes Times about my predictions for my bracket this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying how, some people think the Super Bowl is their favorite day, favorite sports day. For Paul, it's Daytona Day or MLB opening day. But no, this Thursday and Friday, the first Thursday and Friday of March Madness is my favorite sports days of the year.
And we'll get to those in a moment because we'll see your bracket, we'll see my bracket, we'll talk really the games that we're looking forward to and really, I guess, specifically this weekend as well, the opening two rounds. Luckily we don't have Aaron Rodgers talking about what he's doing for the first hour and a half of our podcast. So,
no, we're not First Take.
No, Pat McAfee or whatever, but at least that saga's over with, right? We can finally move on beyond that. And
yeah, I've been behind it.
Good. You and me both. All right, let's jump right in. March Madness, NCAA Tournament time. Now down to 64 teams. We're officially at the 64. First four are already through. Alabama, the number one overall seed.
Sounds like football.
Yeah, I was about to say, or baseball or softball at this point. I guess let's start in the South region, right, where Alabama is. Let's jump right in. This, to me, is the region that maybe has the most, I'd say, numerically upset potential. I think you can maybe make a case for the West, at least for the first weekend anyway. But to me, it's the South. There's a lot of darlings, right? I mean, Charleston at the 12 seed, Furman at the 13, NC State technically as an 11 seed. After that, I mean, you see Santa Barbara at 14, which is really actually, at least in my bracket, where the bracket that I feel most comfortable with. Like this year, not to get too far down the line, this year I kept everything pretty much the same outside of a couple of games here and there. Usually I end up doing like two separate ones where it's like different things are happening, but this year I kept everything as uniform as I could outside of a couple games. Really the only upset that I have in my mind out of that, and it kind of sucks because I'm a big Charleston guy. I've been a Charleston guy all year. I actually have UC Santa Barbara beating Baylor. That's the only upset I have out of that. Upset in my mind. I guess, technically, I have Utah State beating Missouri.
Did you see my bracket? That was my big upset, too.
Really?
Santa Barbara beating Baylor.
But, I mean, like I said, the South has a lot of those darling teams that I think I wouldn't get suckered into too much, to be honest. For example, there's a reason why NC State was an 11 and was one of the last teams in technically. I get Creighton's probably not all that much better on paper anyway, but, they've been more consistent. Mm-hmm. They've been consistent all year. NC State, they got to win in the ACC tournament, but down the stretch, not the best. And I think that's a lot of it, too, for me is, all right, how did you do down the stretch? How were you looking? How were you, whatever? That's why, for me, you look at 8-9, Maryland, West Virginia in that region. I have West Virginia. To me, they played a little bit better in their conference tournament, a little bit better that final week and a half of the regular season.
Yeah. And how about that? Start today off with an 8-9 game. Everyone's thinking, I'm going to have the perfect bracket. You're probably going to lose half the people on the first game today.
So, yeah, I like I said, I guess really the only two numeric upsets I have, I guess it's three if you want to count 8-9. I have a 9 advancing, but I have UC Santa Barbara beating Baylor and I have Utah State beating Missouri. But outside of that, I don't have any.
And you have West Virginia?
I don't have any of those. Yeah, I don't have any of those upsets.
That's the same bracket I have.
Yeah.
I think you're reading my bracket.
Well, it quickly diverges, I think, at that point. So we'll stay on the de facto top half of the bracket. We'll move over to the Midwest. That has Houston as its 1 seed. Again, a lot of a lot of upset potential on this side of the bracket as well. Colgate at 15, a lot of people I know are riding them. I am not, oddly enough.
I think they'll give them a game.
They'll give them a game, but Texas, I think, is just too big on that size portion of it. They both run at the same speed pretty much, but size, I think, is going to prevail. The only two upsets I have on this side of the bracket anyway are Penn State beating A&M 10-7, which not a lot of people have. A lot of people are high on A&M, and they probably shouldn't be a 7 seed, but they've been one of those teams that I just haven't been able to trust all year. I have Kent State beating Indiana. So those are my two upsets on that side.
I have Kent State beating Indiana.
Okay. So top half of the bracket, Nick. Right, mentioned Alabama and Houston are the 1 seeds. What stands out to you on that top half of the bracket?
Well, before we start really diving into this, we got to remember that me and Paul are one of the worst bracket challenge people you could talk to.
Yeah, we are actually.
So it's not funny. It's not surprising.
Me specifically.
It's not surprising we have like the same bracket right now
Yeah.
as we get going. You want me to talk about the first one, the South?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Alabama's going to lose.
Oh.
I think there's just too much controversy, too much stuff going on there.
So where do you have them losing at?
I am Bob Huggins' guy right now.
So you're saying round of 32 is when they bounce.
I'm saying, yeah, I think they're gonna. Whether it's Maryland, I do have West Virginia, but whether it's Maryland or West Virginia, I don't know. They're gonna have some struggles getting that second weekend just because they're a 1 seed. But Charleston's playing who? What 5 seed?
Charleston's playing San Diego State.
San Diego State. I think I did pick Charleston just one round. A lot of people are high on Charleston.
I mean, I am.
They
didn't get a good matchup.
Charleston. I've heard Drake.
Drake played Miami over in the Midwest, the other side over there.
I even heard Oral Roberts. Maybe,
we'll get to them.
Maybe make a run again, but I think there's definitely. I think you said this. I think there's a better chance there's going to be some March Madness upsets in Alabama's region than Houston's region. Honestly, I think Houston's got a pretty easy path to the Final Four. I think they got a relatively easier region. I know Miami's decent, but Miami just made the Elite Eight last year. Do we see them doing it again? I don't know. Texas is very talented, but they still really don't have a coach. They've had an interim.
Who, by the way, is probably not going to retain it, oddly enough.
I didn't know that, but I don't know. I see an easy path for Houston, and Houston's hurt me in the past. I haven't really taken Houston far in my bracket. This year, I'm going riding with them all the way to the championship game.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're actually the only one. They're actually the only 1 seed I have making the Final Four.
Okay.
What's interesting to note with them though is if Auburn does beat Iowa in the first round, that's in Birmingham. Those 2 games going into that game are in Birmingham, Alabama. Houston did not get a good draw in terms of where that game would be played. Auburn's only like an hour away from Birmingham, I think it is. Like, that's giving them a de facto home game almost. And has Auburn played well the final month of the year? No. But they started, I think it was like 16 and what was it, like 16 and like
they started
like 9 or no, like 16 and 7 or
Yeah.
something like that. Like something crazy. Like they were ranked in the top 10 for a while. And look, Bruce Pearl knows what he's doing. He's not a bad coach by any means. That could be a potential upset. Now, if they get by them, I think it's a very easy overall skating at that point. I have, like, again, one of those possible upsets. Like, I have Miami getting to the Elite Eight or to the Sweet 16 to play Houston. But, I mean, after that, it's whatever. And then after that, that bottom half of the bracket, I think, is going to beat up on each other as much as I think it's going to stay primarily chalk through. But, I'm with you. I think Houston probably has the easiest path to the Final Four out of the 1 seeds this year.
Too. And they've also, obviously it's a new team from year to year, but Ralph Sampson's been there. He's done this.
Right.
Matt Painter's not done this. Nate Oates has never brought a team to the Final Four. Who's the other 1 seed?
Kansas.
Okay, Kansas has been there. But, I like Houston's experience on the coaching side.
Yeah. Samson's obviously done it before. Indiana, you mentioned, right? Already, we know that. With Houston, I suppose if there was an interesting Samson case, it's the fact that he hasn't really ever gotten over the hump. So that would make it
A lot of coaches.
mildly interesting.
It's hard to win at Houston.
Yeah.
The fact that he puts this team in a championship contender every year is impressive.
No, yeah, I mean, well, see, I don't know. I do semi disagree with you there because Houston.
It's the fourth biggest city in the country.
Well, yeah, but Houston, they've had a pretty good basketball history. I mean, Phi Slama Jamba, stuff beyond that. Obviously, it's dated at this point in the grand scheme of it, but it's not like they're slouches, I guess, in that sense either. So I don't know. Let's slide on down here to the bottom half of the bracket, East-West. Start with the East, and this is where, Nick, you convoluted things. Purdue, the number 1 seed there. But, again, there's a lot of upset potential here. I don't necessarily see that happening too much. I do have the aforementioned Oral Roberts beating Duke, however, in the first round.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Well, we've seen it before. Last year, Virginia Tech won the ACC tournament, and everyone was high on that, and they got bounced in the first round. So you're saying the same thing for Duke? And I got to ask you, does it, for a team like Duke who's very much in the tournament, no matter what they did in the ACC tournament, do you think it hurts them to go make a deep run, play more games the week before?
Not necessarily, because there's a 5-day to 6-day layover at that point. It's funny you mention that because you got to remember, up until about 2 weeks ago, Duke was a bubble team. And, that's what has me worried. This Duke team, let's go around the room. Has Duke impressed you this year?
Not to Duke standards, but they impressed me in that ACC tournament,
okay.
for sure.
Nate, did Duke impress you this year?
Yeah, towards the end of the year. I think they're going to smash Oral Roberts.
Okay,
Won't even be close.
Towards the end of the year. Okay, this is a key portion of it because I
think they blow them out.
I think I will have to. I think I will have to go back on what I mentioned about playing good at the right time. I do agree. Duke is playing good at the right time right now, right? I think from what I've said about other teams, and that's fair and certainly just, and I'm not going to run away from it. I do, however, like I said, they have not impressed me all year. I don't know if it's slightly fool's gold here, but can they rely on a guy like Filipowski, who's kind of an old school big in that nature? I don't know. What I find to be interesting here is so if Duke does beat Oral Roberts, right? They go on to face somewhere Tennessee, Louisiana. Can they beat Tennessee? I don't see a way Duke gets out this weekend. I just don't.
I have Duke losing to Purdue in the Sweet 16, but
Oh, okay.
I think because Tennessee's always a choker too. Tennessee never wins; they blow it every year, and I think if Purdue can get by Duke, I think they got a real shot at the Final Four. And I can't remember the year, but it's been a long time since Purdue made the Final Four, so it's a big tournament for the Boilermakers. But I disagree with you, Paul. I think Duke is their biggest threat in their bracket.
Okay.
How often?
So you think? Okay.
I gotta ask you this though.
Okay.
How often do we see a big upset like that do it again? Like Oral Roberts went to the Sweet 16 2 years ago as a 15 seed. Are we really buying Oral Roberts again?
I don't think I necessarily buy them to the Sweet 16. I don't have them advancing past Tennessee. But it's funny you mentioned Purdue because I don't have Purdue in the Sweet 16. I have them losing to Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, the most deceptive 9 seed of all time.
All right.
Florida Atlantic, in all fairness, should probably be a 6 seed. If not, dare I say 5.
I'll be honest, I have not seen a Florida Atlantic game this year. I couldn't name one person in the whole organization, but
in fact, again, not to get too far down the line, I have Florida Atlantic losing in the Elite 8.
Okay. Wow, so you have them beating Tennessee?
Yep. I have them losing to Marquette.
Marquette.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're thinking craziness is going to happen. Even though
I'm not
Marquette's
thinking
a 2.
exact craziness, but that's an impressive Marquette team. I think the Big East got slept on a little bit.
You know, I
this
actually
year.
saw a stat yesterday. Shaka Smart has lost 7 straight NCAA tournament games.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's a 2 seed. He should end that.
They do have
wherever
a
they play.
tough first round matchup against the Catamounts of Vermont.
Yeah, Vermont. Usually, my one friend Nate is from Vermont, and he's a big Vermont fan. And
Nate Severance, not to be confused with producer Nate.
oh yeah, Nate Severance. Anyway, yeah, because he was a little upset because Vermont's usually around a 13, 14 seed, 12 seed sometimes, and then they were a 15 seed, so they're a little, I think, undervalued this year. So yeah, it is a tough first round matchup.
Let's kick over to the West, the other side of the bracket on the bottom half. Kansas, the 1 seed there. Will be without Bill Self this weekend.
Still sick.
Semi-breaking news. So not technically speaking, sure, but he had a couple stents put in his heart. They didn't call it a heart attack, and that's okay. I mean, when you go to the doctor and they can tell one's about to happen, I guess it's not a heart attack. But I digress. Again, the West, a couple upsets that people on high alert. I saw some people really on Grand Canyon over Gonzaga, which is mildly interesting. I'm not particularly big on Gonzaga, but they are a quiet team that's ready to strike.
I will say the what conference they play in the West Coast.
Yeah.
The West Coast Conference has improved throughout the year since Gonzaga has been a factor. But they're still used to playing those type of teams. Like whenever they were a 1 seed, you knew they were going to kill the 16 seed because they play those teams pretty much the whole year. And a team like what you said, Grand Canyon. Yeah, they'll beat Grand Canyon with ease. I mean, they're used to those type of teams. It's when they play the tougher competition.
Yeah. This region, there's not a ton of upset potential here. I think the one that sticks out mainly is St. Mary's at the 5 versus the 12th seed VCU. I don't think either are seeded correctly. I think both should probably be maybe a hair higher than they are.
I like St. Mary's.
And at that point, it's like, okay, well, if they're still in the region, who do you swap where? Again, this goes back into, though, like, how is UConn in the West? I don't know, but whatever.
UConn could very well easily lose to Iona.
Right, but that's the thing, right? I mean, that's the other darling pick a lot of people are taking. This is actually the side of the bracket where I just pretty much saw everything as chalk for the first round. To be honest, I'd love to take VCU. They got burned on their seed, and they got burned on another team that didn't get seeded properly in seeing St. Mary's, for example. Yeah. And I just don't see it. I think Iona's going to give everything UConn can handle. I just don't see UConn losing another opening round game under
they lost last year, right?
Yeah. To be honest, if Dave Hurley loses another opening round game as head coach, there's going to be a lot of questions, I think, surrounding at this point. Okay, can he be the guy to take what they have as next step? Because to be quite frank, he rebuilt a program that. And Kevin Ollie gets a bad rap because, look, they got to the national championship game with Kevin Ollie. And I just don't think Ollie recruited enough to continue that on. And I think it set a bad precedent within the athletic department. And they kind of panicked and canned him, even though it probably was for the best move. Hurley's gone back to where they usually are. It's just, can Hurley make that next step? And I think he does, at least in the first round.
I'm not going to compare Connecticut to Cincinnati. I mean, Connecticut's program has definitely taken a dip lately. They're not where Jim Calhoun had them. But I'm going to compare him to Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin was a great coach, and he struggled, I'm pretty sure, in that first weekend with Cincinnati all those years. And then he finally goes to UCLA, becomes head coach, gets the team to the Final Four. He's always been looked as a good coach.
Mick Cronin's UCLA Bruins in the West is the 2 seed as well.
Are you seeing a rematch of Gonzaga UCLA in the Sweet 16?
I do.
A Final Four rematch? That was that great bubble Final Four game.
I do.
That no one got to watch, but
yeah, I don't want to. Again, I mentioned through the first weekend. I have it chalk in the West, or through the first round. Through the second round, however, it's not quite chalk.
You have chalk all 8.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
Not often. Not often.
Yeah.
It's just that the West, to me, has the most, as much as there are the two high, what I'll call high ceiling upset alerts, I also see this region as probably being the most chalk, to be honest. And I think, again, that goes back to maybe having some seeding issues.
I would love to see a St. Mary's Gonzaga Elite 8.
I would as well, but I don't have that happening. So I think with that in mind, do you want your bracket to go first? Or do you want my bracket to go first?
Well, I guess we could put mine up.
Okay.
I do have St. Mary's Gonzaga. In the
So
Elite 8.
Nick's bracket, so you can see up on the screen. You kind of mentioned already a little bit here. So run if you can, run through a couple of those games. I'll let you pull it up here for a quick second because I saw your phone screen just shut off on you at the perfect time, as is tradition.
Okay. So
Yeah, run through a couple of, and then give your Final Four and championship stuff as well, obviously, at that point.
every point I've made so far on this podcast has gone biased to my bracket.
Correct. Well, why wouldn't it, though?
Yep. So I do have the big West Virginia upset over Alabama. Every once in a while, you get that 8-9 to take down the 1 before the second weekend. And I think it's going to be West Virginia this year. Could be totally wrong, as I am expected to be wrong. But that's what I have going on in the South. I think Creighton could get to the Elite 8 because never too high on Arizona. And it's just a relatively easier bottom half of that South region for Creighton. And I think Creighton was playing well at the beginning of the year. And the matchups that they have, the matchups that I'm giving them, obviously if Baylor wins, might change my opinion on Baylor, and they could move on, and they could potentially go to the Elite 8. But I'm going to go with Creighton, and I'm going to go with Virginia out of that region because of just matchups. The way I have it, I just see Virginia. But the thing with Virginia, they could lose to anybody the way they score. They could easily lose to Furham in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
So we're riding with the Cavaliers in the South. Let's go down to the bottom. I got Purdue, Duke meeting in the Sweet 16. I got Kentucky, Marquette. I think those will be those are two very highly anticipated matchups if that does happen. I would love to see Purdue take down Duke, Kentucky. Then meet Virginia in the Final Four. Houston, I've mentioned it already. In the Midwest, I think they're just I think the bracket's just easy, especially the way I have it going for them. I just don't see Miami making back-to-back Elite 8s, but I do see them making a little bit of a run. I'm riding on Buzz Williams and Texas A&M. I always love a first 4 team. Pittsburgh, I got them going to the Sweet 16. And, yeah, I think Houston's going to get to the Final Four out of that because they're going to meet Texas A&M in the Elite 8, which will probably definitely not happen. I don't know. I'm looking at it. But then in the West, I got St. Mary's Gonzaga meeting the Elite 8. I would love to see these matchups. This is some great matchups if we can get these in the Sweet 16. Kansas, St. Mary's, Gonzaga, UCLA. I want the rematch with Gonzaga, UCLA, and Gonzaga, St. Mary's. So the Final Four: Virginia, Purdue, Gonzaga, Houston. I've rode with Gonzaga. I think I've picked them to win the championship the last 2 years. I'm just not doing it again. So I'm taking Houston, and I'm on the Zach Edey bandwagon in Purdue, and I'm taking Purdue to win it all. And I know the Big Ten has not won a national title since 2000 with Michigan State, and I know Maryland, who's in the current conference, has won a national title before the last Big Ten team too as well. So, but I don't know. There's just something special about this Purdue team. And I think the Big Ten drought is going to end this year.
I like it. I'm with it. I like where you're at. So I guess it's time to pull mine up. Start, I guess, up in the South, right? I kind of teed it up a little bit already for me. But to look ahead the way you kind of did, I do have Alabama beating West Virginia. I just think they're a little bit better. Tough part with that Furman game for you. Both them and Virginia play the same tempo. And so I think if they were quicker, I would be all on board that upset. It's just that clash of the speeds. I don't think it works. Yeah. I do have Creighton. I have UC Santa Barbara beating Baylor. I mentioned that already. I do have Utah State beating Missouri. I have Arizona. Make it to the Sweet 16. I have Bama versus Virginia and then Creighton versus Arizona. Elite Eight, Alabama versus Arizona. And
Arizona's another team that always lets people down.
Yeah, I think, though, it's so weird this year, this bracket for me. But I have Arizona beating Alabama. I think I just think the pressures will ramp up on the further and further they get along. Look, Brandon Miller has threats on him right now. People are pissed to the point that they're doing the thing that they shouldn't be doing, to be quite honest with you, to the point that Brandon Miller has armed security on him now 24/7. Look, I'm not going to sit here and act as if I think he doesn't deserve it, but the same token, maybe chill. Okay, he's going to be in the public court of opinion here the rest of the way because of what happened. He shouldn't have been there. What he did, in my mind, was still wrong by delivering the gun. Okay?
It's definitely wrong, yeah.
But, look, I think the pressure is going to mount. Alabama at some point is going to have to kind of circumvent and go back, and I think it just finally cracks for them in the Elite Eight. And for them, it's going to be to the hands of Arizona, oddly enough. The Arizona-Creighton game for me is interesting because Creighton in that game could either probably win by 20 or lose by 20. But either way. I'm going to go over to the Midwest. I have Houston getting to the Final Four. I already mentioned that out of there. I do have them playing Xavier, though, in the Elite Eight for that game. I think Xavier gets by Texas in the Sweet 16. I think Houston actually plays Miami in the Sweet 16, rather. But I think Kent State's a one-and-done upset. I do have Iowa beating Auburn, so I don't think what I brought up is going to be an issue, but it could be an interesting thing to monitor there. Scoot on down to the East. This is where I do have probably the bulk of my upsets. Mentioned right, I have Florida Atlantic going to the Elite Eight and losing Marquette there. I do have Kentucky beating Providence. If the March Madness was February Madness, I think this would be a Providence victory, but in probably a flip-flopping of Steeds. But Providence has played not good the final month here. Another thing to keep an eye on with them, Ed Cooley is apparently the leader in the clubhouse for the Georgetown job if he wants it. So you never know. I do have Kentucky upsetting, I guess, Kansas State in the round of 32, if that counts as an upset.
They're talented. Yeah,
I mean, something to keep an eye on there. Like I said, I have Marquette advancing out of the East. I like what I see out of them, to be quite honest. And is that me just hearkening for a different time and a different era of basketball, of which I missed? Maybe. But I think that's a really good group Shaka Smart has. Might be the most talented group he really has ever had, to be quite honest. I wouldn't sleep on them. And at that point, for Marquette, the East region, their second weekend, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, back at MSG. So, same court that they were at for the Big East tournament.
I always like it when they
always
go there.
Always helps. In the West, I mentioned it's a fairly chalk bracket for me in the grand scheme of it. I do have St. Mary's beating UConn in the round of 32. At that point, it still remains chalk. I have Kansas beating St. Mary's. I have UCLA beating Gonzaga. And against probably my better judgment, I have UCLA beating Kansas, which brings us to the Final Four. Houston versus UCLA, Arizona versus Marquette. I have UCLA and Marquette in the final. I have UCLA winning. So for me, I'd have the first champion from west of the Mississippi since 1997.
Yeah, so a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team has not won the national title in a long time. And the two worst tournament challenge people have predicted it.
Yeah. So, God bless America. Nate, what do you got going for Bray? I know we don't have yours up, but where are you kind of standing on everything going on?
I like Houston a lot. Even without Sasser, I think they'll get him back soon. They should be okay without him today or tomorrow night. Actually, no, tonight.
Yeah.
I think, like I said earlier, I think Duke plays well today. I don't know if that second round matchup could be tough for them. But yeah, like in Houston the most. And I also, Nick, piggybacking off of you and seeing what your article today in the Finger Lakes Times, I like Charleston to beat San Diego State a lot today too. Another upset I like.
All right. Like it.
A lot of people are liking that Charleston upset.
Yeah, no. I've been on Charleston all year. It's just that I'm not a big fan of the matchup they got. And I think it goes back to this wasn't a good seeding job by the committee this year. It just wasn't to me. I think primarily they got all the teams right.
I'm gonna have to check out that Florida Atlantic game.
Yeah,
I need to hear what the hype all about them.
Mm-hmm. They play a good Memphis team. I mean, this is a Memphis team that really came on strong. A team that start off the year in such a way that people were calling for Penny Hardaway, and I don't think that's going to happen quite now. So, all right, before we get out of here, there is one more bracket to discuss. Nick, first and foremost, the past, how long is this now? This is the fourth year of you doing it, right? Kind of started in the pandemic, I think, right?
Yeah, fourth year.
Or no, it didn't start in the pandemic.
I did one in college.
Yeah.
And then I brought it back because of the pandemic.
Yeah. And you kind of, it's different every year. What was it? Last year was it music, or 2 years ago was music?
Music was 2 years ago. Food was last year.
But this year is animals.
Yes.
So I'll let you have a floor. Why animals this year for your bracket?
Well, I got the best followers in the social media world. I will say that they're very honest voters, though. Everyone who votes, very honest. Not too many upsets. I'd like to see a little bit more upsets, but no, they go for the best animal. So it makes me feel like I'm ranking them well.
Mm-hmm.
So animal this year. I always try to find a topic that interests everybody. You don't go for a topic that's only like a certain audience. I try to get the whole audience. So haven't done animals yet, so I did one this year. Did a pretty big bracket this year. Had like 8 play-in games, and then round of 64, and that's what round we're in right now, and goes till the championship will be. I have my own schedule for it, and championship will be on the Final Four day. When that Saturday of the Final Four will be the championship. So got a couple more weeks of it, and the best animal, 8 different regions, 8 different 1 seeds. None have gone down yet. Pretty good draw so far. Got a lot of nice comments from it. So yeah, I look forward to doing it. I like doing it. So
We might have one. Is it a 1 seed? I don't know. I think there might be an upset today. Yeah, it's always fun. I like how you just kind of do it. It's a fun thing. It kind of gets, the mind a little bit in a different spot. You have fun. You can kind of loosen up. So, where can
I think that 1 seed you're talking about, Paul, is Spider. I think that goes down
that
today.
is a 1 seed. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I don't know if it's good. I think we might have.
I think Fly takes down Spider today. I voted for it.
I have not seen how it's doing right now, but the Fly really.
In the Spider?
The Spiders, for an insect region, it's a pretty good insect, the spider. That's why I made it number 1. Thank goodness the seagull's gone. I think that's one of the worst animals in this entire world.
Oh,
it's
wow.
a stupid seagull. You don't know how many French fries I've thrown at a seagull to get away from me. Even though that attracts a seagull, but no.
Wait, you've actually thrown food at a seagull before?
Oh, yeah, that's a stupid bird.
Sheesh. It's not nice. All right, anyway, like I was going to say, where can the people find you, how they can find you, and get voting on this?
You can find me so the 4 social media platforms are the big 4. You can on Instagram Instagram is at Nick J Felice, all lowercase. Snapchat is at Nick Felice 21, all lowercase. Facebook is just my name, Nick Felice. And what's the other one? Twitter. We gotta get a little. I don't tweet too much, so I haven't getting. It's not too hot right now, the Twitter, so we gotta get it up. My Twitter is actually at NickyFresh21, capital N, capital F.
The Fresh is still alive in some spots.
Yeah, I gotta start tweeting more.
Yeah. I mean, I respect your work and what you do there, so. All right. Yeah, before we get out here, though, quick mention. I mean, we'll all be in different spots this weekend in the Capital District. Myself and Nate will be at Hudson Valley Community College all weekend covering the Waterloo girls. We'll be there for that. Nick, you'll be there, but you're also doing Canandaigua. Are you going to Glens Falls?
Yes, Newark,
you are
too.
Going to Newark as well.
I'm leaving today, actually.
Yeah, so that's why we're kind of quickly going through this as best we can, because you're going today. Me and Nate, we're leaving early tomorrow. Jim Center-Cropey is covering the Newark boys for us up at Glens Falls. So it's going to be an action-packed weekend for all of us here. All of us here in the room.
I'm just so happy we didn't leave the other day when it was snowing.
Yeah. I'm happy that we don't have to deal with that tomorrow. I think the only thing tomorrow is it might be raining when we're going. It's supposed to be in the 40s.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to rain tomorrow morning.
And at least when we're going, you're going this afternoon. I think it's clear sailing for you. So looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. It's always fun. This is your first trip up that way, though, right?
Yes.
So it's a lot of fun. Me and Nate were there last year.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Good
I'll
fun.
see you guys down there or over there.
Yeah, we'll be up top. We'll be in the broadcasting area. So I don't know. We'll see you either way. I know we're kind of making some plans behind the scenes. So should be fun as always. So turn over to you, Nick. Do you have a shout out this week?
Yeah, my friend Jaron Johnson's birthday is on Saturday.
Happy birthday, Jaron. I didn't know that his birthday was coming up.
Happy birthday, Jaron. I do have that correctly. Yes, it is this Saturday.
I have that correct.
Happy birthday, Jaron. Shout out.
Alrighty. So, appreciate Nick as always. Appreciate Nate as always behind the scenes, working the controllers. Good luck to everybody and your brackets. May the odds may ever be in your favor. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, all the fun stuff if you can't catch us live. And until next week, have an awesome weekend, everybody. We'll talk to everybody then.